having us.
Here he is.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, welcome everybody to another action-packed Sandy Neck Board meeting. Sorry?
Could I have an extra piece of paper? I'm sorry, I should ask that before the meeting.
Got it.
Thank you. Never mind. Thank you.
Again, welcome everybody. I think we have a quorum so we can get going. Excuse me, so we'll start with the usual request that if anybody's videoing or taping the meeting, that they make themselves known. It's been 9 years. I've yet to see anyone admit to
Nobody
such
admits to it.
actions. But in any event, thank you. So we'll move on to roll call, starting with the, on my left.
Yeah. Ann Kennedy. Joni.
Chris Clark, Town Council Liaison.
Pete Sampu.
Hannah Lawrence, Sandy Neck Assistant Park Manager.
Nina Coleman, Park Manager.
Donna Bragg, Operations Supervisor.
Tom O'Neill. Okay, we're ready to go. So let's go on the minutes for last month. Anybody have any comments? Bill, you need to identify yourself for the roll call.
Bill Carey.
Thanks. Anybody have any comments on the minutes from last month? Seeing no hands raised, we'll ask somebody to make a motion to approve.
As submitted.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carried. Minutes are passed. Correspondence, anybody?
No, sir.
No, either. Okay, thanks. Staff report. Is that Hannah?
It is Hannah, yeah.
You see her?
All right, so first up, we had the Coast Sweep Beach Cleanup on September 18th. It was a pretty small turnout, but we were able to dispose of over 20 pounds of beach trash. And just a reminder, we do have staff that's, consistently out patrolling the beach, picking up and disposing of trash as we're out. So, might seem like a small amount, but it is definitely being removed constantly. Still have a lot of merch available for sale. Hats, sweatshirts, sweatpants.
Great for Christmas.
Exactly, great for the holiday gifts. The blue sweatshirts are a new design this year. It's a hooded sweatshirt with the picture of the Sandy Neck Cottage Colony and the lighthouse. So those,
Very nice.
yeah, those are pretty cool.
They're hooded, though? You don't
Those
have any
ones
of
are
that?
hooded. Yeah, we had the crew necks in the summertime. Probably looking at getting more of those
went
for
like
next
that.
season. They went
that
very
design?
quickly. Yes.
Save me one.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Some exciting news at Sandy Neck. We recently hired 2 new permanent staff members to the Marine and Environmental Affairs team, part of the Natural Resource Division. Both Anne-Marie Lupino and Antonio Mancha have been seasonal NROs with us for a number of seasons. So they're part of the full-time staff now. So that's very exciting. So you'll probably still see them around at Sandy Neck, throughout the year. Some important reminders to, think about when you're coming to the beach. We are kind of full swing hunting season right now. Pheasants are being stalked on Tuesdays and Saturdays, and there's never any hunting on Sundays. October 30th, we're going to have the West Barnstable Trunk or Treat, and it's going to be at Sandy Neck from 4 to 6. So those are really fun. Give the opportunity for kids to see, our off-road vehicles. The fire department's going to come down with their fleet. Kids can trick or treat, from vehicle to vehicle. So that should be a good time. And then as a reminder, November 1st, we're going to switch to the 4 p.m. curfew. With that comes no campfires.
So that's a slide for our further
Yeah, you want to just call that out
conversation.
for a second?
Yeah. I want to add, with regard to new staff, I really spent a lot of time talking to this board about how much staffing issues we've had for 3 years, and the town has really heard and supported us with these 2 new full-time town employees. So that was great news, and we feel really confident that that's going to help us as we move forward with continuity, with safety issues, not having to retrain new staff every year, and just having more professional people at Sandy Neck helping out. And then as an added bonus, it was open to the public, and we interviewed a number of people, and both of the individuals that were able to secure those jobs were Sandy Neck staff. Antonio, people have known Antonio for years. He's been on our beach. He's a very consistent, level-headed, kind and professional individual. And so we're really, really happy that we were able to add him to our team and secure him, because we lost him this summer. He went somewhere else, and we were able to get him back. So we're really happy about that. And Anne Marie was a full-time employee for a number of years, and now she's, for the last 4 or 5 years, she's been helping us out doing night shifts, and she is really amazing. These are both local people. So I just wanted to nod, do a nod towards the town for hearing us, and then just really thrilled with these 2 new staff members. They really are, the way we want our Sandy Neck staff: kind, consistent, firm, yet going towards education first, and I think everybody's going to really have them on our beach.
2 things, 2 questions. One on the cleanup, just as a suggestion, I think there needs to be, it's pretty obvious from the day, some different sorts of publicity for that, because it was pretty dismal, the turnout. I think there were like 6 of us, maybe at the most. So we really couldn't cover much of the beach. So I don't know what happened with the communication, because the MBBA sponsored one, usually has a good crowd. But this particular one really was very few people there. So I don't know. I mean, it was almost either needs to improve or.
I think there was a lot of competition for that particular day as far as other cleanups and other activities.
Yeah, I don't know somebody needs to look at calendars or figure out a better way to publicize it, because it was pretty, a lot of effort goes into these things, and there were very few people there, so.
If I may.
Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, I had spoken to Donna about this, and I do think that, and I made a suggestion to the town manager that perhaps there could be a better way of promoting Coast Sweep all throughout the town, because it's not just occurring at Sandy Neck, but there are groups that get contacted primarily through the Conservation Division. And I think the old way was to contact the chair of these particular groups, Barnstable Clean Water, I'm not sure who, and the civic associations, to engage them. And Coast Sweep doesn't just happen on one day. It's a period of time where the state supports this effort. So perhaps a calendar of what group is going out when could be on the town's website somewhere, not just Sandy Neck audience, but and be populated in more than one place, on the conservation web page, on Sandy Neck web page, on the town's homepage, and maybe a little use their current little podcasts in advance of Coast Sweep for through conservation for overall pitching of the cleanup opportunities in the town.
So it's a great kid activity. We had a few kids that day that were having a great time,
But they knew about it because
Yeah,
it was
'cause of
on
schools,
a
that's
list
right.
for approved activities for mandatory
That's right.
community
Community
volunteer-
service, yeah.
Community service.
Okay, the other thing was, could we get an org chart of your organization so that we can just see kind of how everybody fits? Because there have been a number of changes. Your role's a little different, Donna's role's a little different, Hannah's coming in. I think it would be useful for me, and I suspect for the whole board, just to have an org chart that just kind of shows the MEA department with all the people on it, so we can just kind of see.
Oh, you definitely don't want to see the whole MEA.
Well, you know what I mean.
Spaghetti, but I
Yeah.
can do Sandy Neck,
Yeah,
certainly.
Sandy Neck and where it sort of reports in, in that MEA structure, so.
You got it.
So that'd be helpful, thanks. Any other questions? Everybody's now read ahead on this chart, so they're all
I am not, I'm saving it.
okay, so old business. We're going to cover conservation and beach erosion in a minute, because Nina will give us an update on the reconfiguration project, which is moving along. Bill's not here, so I think we'll just go right to fee discussion. We had this discussion a month ago, talked about a number of different ideas. I know Nina and her team have taken all that feedback on board. And I think it was a really good discussion. It's almost a little bit of a seminal moment for Sandy Neck in terms of thinking a little bit differently about its fee structure. And but I think importantly, based on data, based on facts, not based on anecdotes. You know, you saw some of the things we covered last meeting, which really showed things that are emerging on the beach that you know, sort of indicate some changes are needed. So I know Nina sent out a proposal to everybody, so I'll let her take us through that again quickly and then have a discussion if anyone has any thoughts about that, and then we'll go ahead to vote.
All right, thank you. Yes, I do need a vote tonight. It will be forwarded to the town manager, whatever is finally decided. I just wanted to refresh everybody's memory to this matrix. This is what we mostly discussed at our last meeting, and it was because we had initially talked about bumping up the non-resident by $30. So I just wanted to remind everybody looking at other beaches, if you kind of cast your eye along the rate line there, you can see that they're mostly in the 300s. Race Point, of course, wouldn't have a non-resident because it's a federal beach. Nauset 386. Plymouth doesn't allow non-residents. And then Sandy Neck is 190. So we're considerably lower. I also, while we're on this matrix, I just want to point out another thing that we really bring to the table, which is campfires. And everybody loves their campfires. You can see that many of these beaches are no campfires. Race Point does allow them with a special permit, and Sandy Neck allows a campfire with a day tripper or a camper as part of your permit. So I think what we determined from this was that we are providing a really good recreational opportunity, and it's pretty competitive. It's a pretty low rate compared to these other beaches. As you all know, we were open the whole year. I'm not saying that's going to happen again, but we did do really well. We are providing a lot of opportunity for folks, and we did not have any closures, knock on wood, last year. So if we go to that, sort of covers the bottom half of this first part of our fee proposal. Just to remind everybody, where I'm headed with this is to bump the non-resident up for the next 4 years or so, every other year, bringing that number up a little more level with the rest of the off-road vehicle beaches in our area. So we don't want to do that all at once, so I'm proposing a $30 increase to our non-resident permit, so from $190 to $220. All the costs for kind of everything, as we all know, because we all live and know that gas is up and rubbish is up and everything is up. So I'm also proposing to go up $5 with the cottage owners permits. I want to remind everybody that's still an extremely good deal. Cottage owners get access to our off-road beach. Their circular permit allows them to be on the off-road beach or recreating. So they get all of that, as well as access with their garbage to the dumpster. So still quite a good deal. Trailers, there's only a few trailers. They're not our favorite because they often get stuck, so we went up $5 with that. So that kind of covers that piece. If we look at the top, we made a few changes, starting with groups, special permits. We are starting to have larger groups, often weddings, not always. And so staff has requested that we have groups over 100 people for $100. And generally, it's still extremely cheap. It is a public beach, so I want to remind you that that's a lot more expensive than the other public beaches. It's still a $30 fee if you want to do something on Veterans Beach or Calamus Beach, but Sandy Neck does have the bathhouse. We have patrols going on, gatehouses greeting these people. sometimes these people drive down the access trail looking for their wedding, so, it ends up just, the weddings have drama associated with them, we all know that. So, just pointing that out. And then, also on this page, campfire permits. So campfire permits are for the public beach. It would be somebody who just wants a permit, who doesn't have an off-road vehicle, and they want to just have that campfire on the public beach. 2 years ago, we had recommended going from $5 to $20, and there was some pushback from the public, and the town manager asked that we take that number up a little slower. So we went to $10 2 years ago, and I'm proposing we go to $20 this year.
What is a tent camper rescue fee?
Oh, yeah, so there's always stories behind all these. So we have the tent camping area, it's 3.3 miles out.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, people maybe aren't organized or don't realize that 3.3 miles means they actually have to hike 3.3 miles, but they get out there and then they want to be driven back.
Oh, yeah.
So it got to the
That's me.
point where we
They try to get an
decided
Uber first, is
to
it?
rescue, they have to, I mean,
You call that a rescue?
well, they often say that they have to be rescued, so that's my nice way of putting it.
It's not a taxi service.
It's not. And that's a very cheap, to go out there and do that.
Yeah.
So just finishing.
Can I just say something? I think rescue is not the right term to put in there, because rescue sounds like, something out of necessity. And I don't think we want to charge if it's something necessary, if somebody's having a heart attack or whatever.
But all of those, if you see, they're all at the discretion of the park manager. So no, we don't charge somebody for a heart attack.
But Bill's got a good point here. Don't call it rescue.
Yeah, taxi fee. It's a taxi
Well,
service.
yeah,
Uber?
Just
Something
tent
other than
camper
rescue.
transport fee.
Yeah, but then they're gonna think that they have that.
Right, you
So
gotta be a
that's
little
the
careful.
problem is they'll happily, just drive me out there and then all their gear and
For
everything.
$60, and they're willing to pay that.
Make some money.
It's not even remotely worth our time. If you bring somebody out there with all their gear, now they have all of this junk. They may have a cooler, they may have alcohol. The whole point of the tent camping was that it would be a backcountry
Yes,
camp
experience.
with your backpack and your tent and your minimal stuff. So, yeah. I'd be happy to change that, but I wouldn't say.
Laziness fee,
Laziness, retrieval.
A retrieval, yeah, that's good.
retrieval,
A tent camper retrieval, that's a good idea.
yeah,
Alrighty, I'll be happy to change that.
retrieval.
Don't let me forget, Donna.
Implies-
She's running it down.
implies that it's only,
You're
Think
being
of a good
Bringing them
word,
back,
but
not bringing them
I agree,
out.
rescue sounds like you're
course.
going out there
Or
and
retrieve.
saving them. That's what I thought, saving them from the
Well, of course, I
shark
could tell
or
you the
something.
story of how we ended up with that word for that thing, because it was you have to come out, I'm bleeding to death.
Oh,
And I went flying out there with the lights flashing as fast as I could with, rescue ready to deal with whatever we had, and it
Called
was like
West
a
Barnstable
blister.
Fire.
It was many years ago, but I mean, we've had that multiple times where,
they cried wolf, basically.
To get the ride back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to get the right back.
all right, but we
Okay.
will be happy to call it retrieval. Thank you for that feedback. Just to finish up on permit fees, we're proposing, now, I just want to remind you, when we first made this three-tier system for the permit fees, we were still having our permit from April to April 15th to April to 15th. Then we shifted that to a calendar year, and so that's why we have this change here. So we still think the fall permit should be 50, 115. I think that makes good sense. We all know the fall is the best time of the year. But we do need to reduce the fee for the winter because it's only a few months. So that would be the day after Columbus Day until around New Year's. So we wanted to reduce that fee. There's only a few people that buy that permit. It's really the hunters.
Oh,
Yeah, our hunters are starting up right now with the pheasant hunt. So I'm fine. We're really going to make no difference for revenue, but it's a little more fair for the.
So somebody who wants to hunt in January, they have to buy a yearly fee then, or?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Most of the hunts are done in January, though.
Yeah, no, yeah, well, anyone who wants to use it.
Yeah.
Sea ducks, right?
Yeah, sea ducks. Usually that's via boat.
Down the other,
Yeah.
Should the fees reflect usage, high periods. So in other words, should you combine, I mean, it seems kind of silly to have something that's there for 3 months, the winter off-road, just for a few months.
I suppose we could. I think it really doesn't matter.
Except for it's just one more layer of trying to keep track of stuff here,
So what are you proposing? I'm not sure.
But I disagree about it, that now that we're all digital, it's 2 seconds.
Yes.
It's an invoice. You just change the
Plug in
computer
the
does it.
date and
Bam, done.
They're a lot more automated now than,
Yeah.
what's allowing us to do a lot of this.
yeah.
It
Customization.
really.
I mean, I don't want to micromanage by any means, so if that works for you, then I guess that's fine. It just seems like there's a lot going on here. It gets a little confusing.
Well, we've had the 3-tier for a while. The only thing that's changing is our fee, fees start now in January as opposed into April. So we had this last year, where day after Labor Day was one price and the day after Columbus Day was another price. So we are trying to accommodate the hunters, pretty much.
Yeah, the
That's
hunters,
what we're
and
doing.
it makes sense, because they're really only going out there for a week.
Yeah,
And
okay.
so I think it's pretty fair.
I mean, in my mind, it seems like it would make more sense to have 6 months of, you pay top dollar because it's during the summertime, and then 6 months, it's just not as busy, and you're not relying on your people, your resources as much. And that would be easier to comprehend and understand, but as I said, I don't want to, micromanage you by any means.
All right, well, this works for us in terms of administration. It's by far the easiest. All right, so those are all pretty straightforward. The next thing I want to move on to is, and I warned everybody, we are going to talk about campers. I've taken some time here. I want to just go through some figures so that you understand how I came to where we came to. This is a picture of the 4th of July. So we had 0.7. So I think at this point there's about 45 camper spaces. And then we measure those out as 26 feet by, it ends up being like 100, 150 feet, depending on how much beach you have. So a nice little square for each camper. The camper, each of those camper areas, they have your camper, you have your chase. A lot of people have boats. They have all their paraphernalia. There's a lot of humanity going on in that little square. But that square is one family, essentially, or one group. So there's a lot of value in that spot because it's the 4th of July and they're able to essentially reserve that chunk of beach for up to 4 days. So it has a lot of value versus the same amount of space where I could fit 4 to 6 day trippers, and those folks have to leave and then come back and battle for a spot again every day. So I just want to point out, I've been saying it for years, it's like, I'm sorry folks, it's like a lot of times it comes down to real estate, and it's the same with all these other off-road beaches. There's not enough space when the birds are around. So I did want to, now everything's digital, to my point, so I wanted to take a minute and kind of explain the breakdown of our usership. So permits sold, this year we've sold, we'll call it 4,900 because we're not quite done yet. And of that, breaking that down, 93% are day trippers, which is 4,568 people, vehicles. 4% are RVs, and what I mean by RV is this: most of them are two-wheel drive. The vast majority of them are two-wheel drive, dual wheel. That picture shows you, it's like all RVs in the summer, very few slide-ons. So 4% are RVs, RV campers, and that's 170 RV campers this year. That doesn't include their chase, that's just the camper. And then 3% are slide-ons. And slide-ons are a pickup truck, it's a 4-wheel drive pickup truck. with a slide-on camper as long as they meet the requirements. So that's kind of our breakdown. And then camper nights sold. So all of those campers, they'll say 3 nights, they'll say 4 nights, they'll say 2 nights. If you add all those nights up, just campers, not their chase vehicles, it's 2,600 nights. And I want to say of those 2,600, 71% of those nights are non-residents.
71%?
Right. Permits sold, it's 61% of permits sold is non-resident. 71% of those camper nights sold are non-resident. So when you look at that picture, about 3/4 of those folks are non-resident. And that's about 45 families-ish. So you break that down further. Of those nights sold, 67% are RVs of those nights sold, and 32% are slide-ons. And this is, I knew this anecdotally, even though we have kind of the same amount of slide-ons, we have 4% versus 3% slide-ons. So there's kind of equal slide-ons and RVs. The RVs are there a lot more.
Twice as much.
And I just knew that.
And during the summer as opposed to.
And the biggest
fringe.
thing is the slide-ons. The slide-ons are your off-season or shoulder season. They're your fishermen. They're your folks that aren't coming at the height of the summer. So I knew that, but was able to
This is
bear
the
it
data.
out. Finally.
Can't argue with this.
You can't argue with that. So you can kind of see what we got going on. Now, who are these campers? Well, there are a number of people that come weekend after weekend after weekend. And I knew that as well, but now it's digital and we can see that. So when I started going through that data, I found a number of people. I don't have an exact number of all the campers, but there's a number of people that come 30 to 55 nights a year. So in context for
Big
that,
deal.
if you stayed every weekend in June, every weekend in July, and every weekend in August, that's 26 nights. So there's a lot of people coming 30, not a lot. There's a group of people that come 30 to 55. Now, I love all, they're great. I'm not complaining. I'm just explaining to you the usership, okay? So and we've always known that. We know these people. They come through every time we say hi. They're great people on the beach. They keep an eye on everything. I'm just telling you that this is the way that the beach is set up. All right. So having said that, this is what I propose. I really wanted to try to figure out the size thing. Campers are in my opinion, getting larger and larger. Large campers get stuck on the access trail. They're very complicated to deal with. That is bearing out in the data as well, which I don't need to get into, but certainly a two-wheel drive camper is more likely to get stuck. So I wanted to break it apart a little bit. So what we're proposing is to go up in 2 tiers here, slide-ons versus RVs, for the reasons I explained. So we want to go up $1 for slide-ons and up $2 for non-resident slide-ons. And then the RVs, which again, we know when they're slide-ons, they have a box that we're checking now. It's like it's a slide-on. So as we go to do reservations on really tight weekends, we can actually give a slide-on less space. So I want to point that out. And then RVs, which are the big guys, or can be the big guys, we want to go up $5 for resident and $10 for non-resident. And then chase vehicles, we want to go up $1 for that. So again, to put it in context for those people who are here, I want to just point this out. So if you're a regular, and again, love our regulars, just saying, if you're a regular and you're coming 30 nights, and you're a resident in an RV, so if you're coming a lot for a summer, it's $555. So that's 30 nights.
Try a bed and breakfast for that.
It is a resident, though, and we definitely want to take care of our residents.
Yeah.
If you're a non-resident, now, this is under this fee structure I'm proposing. If you're a non-resident and you come, and you're in an RV, and you come 30 nights, which again is June, July, and August, every weekend, it's $1,120.
Which is what you pay for some cottages for 1 week.
Or a marina for like 4 days if you go to Nantucket.
So, you know, part of this is I did need to take a look at these fees as compared to other beaches. Part of this is that we do have capital coming up. We need to look at our revenue, and it's going to take a number of years. We need to bring our surplus up to about 1.5 million is what I've been recommended. And this will send us in that direction. We need to start thinking about debt service for a project, which is going to be between $170,000 and $190,000 a year for debt service for some of these projects from some of these alternative analysis that we're looking at. They're all 3.5 to 4.2 million, so you're going to have a pretty decent debt service. So we basically need to start structuring our fees and start working our fees towards being able to fund this project. And so in this project now, the way we have it organized, it's going to help the public beach, but it's also going to help the off-road beach because it's the access trail and it's the gatehouse and it's the revamping of the whole property. So I'm going to stop there. I'm very interested in your questions. I definitely want to hear from MBBA as well, but I don't know if this is the appropriate time.
No, public comment.
Public comment, okay.
Yeah, we didn't have public comment, did we?
No, we didn't, but let's just.
Forgot to do it.
Yeah, let's just move on and let's have our
Do you want to
discussion.
hand, I'm sorry, I should have, you can hand that over to them.
I think Nina stated one of the major benefits, but it's also in the context of being way below the benchmark for these kind of beaches. And, you know, that's, and also very much supported by data, which is important. So you've kind of got this, you know, a need that's pretty easy to see. You've got data in terms of benchmarking that shows we're way behind or way off, you know, what typical other beaches are charging. And so, I mean, there's a lot of good reasons to think in terms of starting to move in a slightly different direction. So anybody on the board have any comments? Or Bill?
You know, I hate having fee increases, but one of the things, some of the information that we're lacking, that I think is really important, is, you know, we're an enterprise account. There should be a profit and loss. We should have a pro forma. I feel like I'm operating in the dark here. You know, you're proposing all these increases, and I can take your word for it, but I don't understand the numbers. I feel like I need to see the revenues and a profit and loss. I need to see what the expenses are. And in this case, you're projecting that we need to increase by, I'm not sure how much, but a few $100,000 in order to get to the $1.5 million figure. I feel like I'm missing some really important information, like a profit and loss that shows here's what we have now, and maybe you would have it over the past 3 years, and then here's a projection, a pro forma, that says, okay, we have this capital project, it's going to cost us $4 million. We have to come up with $1 million of that in cash that we partially have, another $500,000, and then we have a debt service of, call it $200,000. It's hard to understand this information without having a profit and loss, and here we are voting on fee increases, and I don't know, you know, how that fits in with a pro forma. And
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. I think, keep in mind, there's two other factors that Nina's highlighting. One is competitiveness with other beaches, as well as the dynamics of the beach use. Those are two things that are driving these changes as much as anything. So I would argue that even if the project wasn't happening, we would be making these changes. The additional benefit of these changes is it will provide additional revenue. I don't know exactly how much. We did actually model some of this a little bit at the beginning, and it's something that we could probably pull together. I don't think we're going to be able to do it before a vote, and this is going to be a multi-year process of moving, fees to accumulate that money. So
I just want to say, I get it because you're a banker, but it's not like I'm working in like a black hole here. I mean, Mark Milne is brilliant, and we have a whole finance department that is advising, and there is a performa. Why can't I say that?
Yes, we know what you mean.
There is all of that backing up until this point, and there hasn't been an alternative selected. You're putting the cart before the horse a little bit in terms of the actual, vision of debt service and maintenance costs and all of that. So what has been advised to me is as we move forward with selecting an alternative, we need to start moving in the direction of increasing our surplus so that we have this $1 million down payment. And that's not just me pulling that out of the sky. That is, the brilliant Mark Milne directing myself and Derek Lawson on how to proceed at this stage of the project. So I get that you want all the ins and outs, but I kind of am like, don't you understand that, it's not just the biologist that's doing this. There's this whole network that's supporting this town, and this town is, A+ rating. I mean, they know what they're doing, so.
Chris, sorry.
Thank you very much, and I understand where you're coming from, Bill. I'm wondering if it would give Bill some comfort to provide him and the other members with information that comes before the town council, like the last year or 2 or 3 of the operating budgets. It's already in the can.
It's all public information, right? I mean, it's all there if anybody wants
Yes,
to
but I'm
read
just
it.
saying maybe you can provide him the link or something like that.
Yeah, and
just-
in November, I do a presentation that includes the financials as well.
Right.
So.
that's just for Sandy Neck.
Every November.
Yep.
Enterprise fund, it's,
Well, I mean, what I see that you submit to conservation is just sort of revenues, right?
Yeah.
Not expenses. It seems that, we're asked to vote on something like this, which means that you really have to understand a profit and loss. The last thing I want to see happen is that, and town council hasn't voted on an alternative. The last thing I want to see happen is that we've upped all these fees in anticipation of something that doesn't happen, or that we end up with this huge surplus. So in other words, as a municipality, we're charging people more money than we should be, and we've got this surplus. Now, I understand we're hopeful, we're very hopeful that this is all going to pass, and hopefully the costs won't be any, greater than what we've been talking about. But my fear would be if we're not paying attention to this carefully enough, and it is an enterprise account, so I think we should know about costs and revenues. We just don't want to be on the side of somehow charging people way more money than we should be and regretting it. And we also haven't
Go ahead.
voted.
Go ahead, Ann, you're first.
I understand Bill's point, but I think I agree with Nina that it's a little premature because I think really what we're doing now is trying to get up to a level of other beaches, more competitive with other beaches, and not trying to meet our expenses in this go-around. I think that, I think this is more getting in line with other beaches, and then when we get into the project, whatever it is, then we're going to have to look at figures more carefully.
Right.
But,
And there are going to be some budgetary
Yeah,
changes
yeah.
with regard to expenses. I mean,
yeah,
we do
and it
need
won't
to
be
go
just
up.
fees.
Yeah. There are going to
Maureen?
be expense changes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, I think she's made a very good case that, outside of the project, even if, as, Bill worries about that we would increase without the project,
Yeah.
we are so far below our competitors, and I believe that every year the sticker sales have gone up and up, which increases the usage on the beach, which also, again, is, putting strain on your staff, and so even just having, some extra money there for, staff support during peak seasons is very helpful. So, and I think that to be proactive to something, if you have something that is on the table here that we're taking a look at, to be proactive and say, okay, well, now we can start taking a step in that direction, all right, is not, I don't think is, premature or, what's another word for that?
It's not a radical shift.
No, it's not at all, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's 2 points that are coming up, I think, in my head, hitting me, that the project we're talking about doing with respect to the facility is about preparing for the future. And I think there's a bit of that in this fee discussion, that, we're trying to position ourselves for the future, not only in terms of the project, but also increase revenue. Right now, I think your budget's around $1 million, and they spend about $1 million, right? Ish.
It's a little over that.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And there's a $500,000 in the reserve, ish.
There's a million.
$1 million, $1 million in the reserve. So increased revenue, irrespective of the project, equals increased opportunities for education programs, for other things that could be done at the beach to make it more accessible, more friendly to users, more programs they could put together. It talked about, things like that. So having the additional revenue to drive those kind of additional things other than just the project is a benefit, particularly, again, in the context of a benchmarking that's saying we're way off what the market is in this particular area. I doubt very seriously, if we don't increase fees, that all those other beaches are going to reduce their fees just to kind of get in line with us. So I think it's an opportunity for us to have additional revenue, irrespective of whether that project goes forward, which I think, is a really good chance it will. And then secondly, if it does go forward, then we're starting to accumulate some more capital to use to help offset those costs. So I don't see any downside, because I think a lot of the emotion of this is taken away by the data, which clearly shows it is what it is, as they say. So, I mean, that's kind of my view, I guess.
Well, we're going to have the conversation that Bill's bringing up when we talk about the project. But I think right
Exactly.
now, we're talking about getting up to speed with other beaches.
And the cost of doing business has gone up
Yeah,
tremendously.
yes, like gas and everything else.
Garbage pickup,
Yep.
everything.
Yep.
As an enterprise account.
You have to raise your fees to pay for it.
I can
Yep.
send you it's right on the finance website. You can see any budget for
Okay.
the whole town.
I think
It's all transparent.
That's a good point, that we will get into those weeds a little bit more as this thing progresses, but any other comments? Pete, did you have anything you wanted to say? Okay. Nina, do you have anything else you want to cover before we go to a vote?
Oh, one nitpicky small thing. So, on page 1 of the fees,
Yes.
you break down into the groups, nonprofit school groups. I mean, why have so many line items? I mean, why not just say groups 20 to 50, $30, no change, and then eliminate groups over 100. So call your groups over 50, just make it 100. I mean, so what's the big deal?
So you
Just
want to
trying
jump
to
from
look-
30 to 100?
On groups over 50, you've got 2023, $60, no change. I'm saying, just get rid of that and make it $100. Groups over,
I think it's a little dangerous to go from 30 to 100. I
62
But keep in mind, none of these customers are repeat customers for the most part, right?
And these are
And I-
weddings.
It's a low emotion, high hassle.
I don't think there's that many, right, situations. Are there that many, really? I mean,
How many of those do you typically have in a year?
I have that data right here.
I'm just trying to make it simpler to
Yeah.
read and understand.
But again, it's all digital.
Yeah, it doesn't
It's real easy.
Well,
really matter. 46 special permits.
Holy mackerel.
A lot of which were weddings, and a lot of them are over 100 people. The Daniel Webster Inn offers a scenic package.
Which they're making money on.
they
Right.
get married on the beach.
I'd like to know what the Daniel Webster charges those
I
people.
could tell you, but it would be shocking, so.
No, I mean, for the fact that it's on Sandy Neck, and then they're giving us $100.
Right, so that's why we talked about the increase with staff, with 100 people, and trash pickup, and, all those things. So we just all got our heads together and said, that's a very cheap wedding, or a big event for over 100 people. So that's why we want that extra tier.
I've made my point on this, I think, a few times, but this is a low emotion, high hassle area, right? This is where you want to move the costs up to recognize the hassle, because there's very little emotion, there's no politics. If you're having a 100-person wedding,
$200.
paying 100 to the Daniel Webster or whoever, or 500, it's going to make zero
Is
difference.
that what you
No,
said?
200 total.
It'll make zero difference.
You have to look at the other side of that. You got to look at, and the church group, or the song circle, or the soccer moms getting together.
But there aren't over 100 of them, are there?
Yeah,
No,
That's for
he's
the
suggesting we go
Yeah.
from 60.
Yeah.
You need the $30 one there.
Yeah, you
for
do.
Yeah,
the
that's
over.
Keep
fine.
the under 50 at $30. I'm just saying above 50 people, make it simple, $100.
Or 300.
Well, haven't you also said a couple times now that there was pushback from public when you tried to take the price from a level to another level that was a bit too high?
On
keep it.
campfires.
We're not going to micromanage it.
Well, yeah, I'd leave it to, these guys absorb the pain on that, so when the pain gets enough, they'll raise the prices. It's automatic.
Or the pain from both sides. That's what you guys don't understand. It's like, we have to deal with the bridezilla, but we also have to deal with somebody being really upset that it's expensive because it's a public beach. So I think this gives mostly Donna, because frankly, this is her thing, the flexibility to ascertain what the group, should be paying, because, yeah.
At the discretion of the park manager.
Yeah, it might be a public beach, but there's other costs associated with it.
Yeah,
People
yeah.
should understand that.
We're going to let Donna be
Good for a discussion.
the arbiter of pain on this
Bad
one
guy. You can be the bad
over the
guy.
years.
That's okay. I'm good with that. I
Okay.
want to give good service. And in order to give good service, we do need more staff. And in order to do that, we need to raise the prices. And if I have groups over 100, that means I have less ability to give other campfire permits to other groups for that night. And that can be a little frustrating also.
And parking as well, right? I mean, you
Parking as
lose
well.
parking, which is,
There's a whole bunch of things in it, but.
Garbage, everything else.
Right, but, I don't think $100 for over 100 people for your wedding is going to be too much.
$1 a person.
how many $20, $30 parking spots do you lose on a 100-person wedding?
Yeah, well, actually, in the summertime, they have to come after 5 o'clock, so there's no charge there. But, to be fair, they're not using the facilities, they're not going to the snack bar.
Right.
Because they have the hors d'oeuvres,
Yeah.
and all that stuff afterwards. So there is a little bit of revenue loss, and to offset that, and to actually make sure our beach remains clean and remains, safe for everybody.
Yeah.
You want more of our staff out there kind of supervising the situation.
Yeah.
So I don't think $100 is going to
That's
kill
cheap.
it. Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Okay, any other comments from the board before we move on to a vote? So I guess I'll make the motion that we approve the fees
As
schedule for 2023 as submitted by Nina's team.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimously carried. Fees are carried. Next, to town council.
I have a question. Is there going to be a public hearing on?
Yes, that's what I was about to say. So it goes from here to the town manager. I believe it gets distributed to the town council. I'm not sure, but there is a town manager hearing on the 15th of November, who's
You
which
want
is
me
a
to be
special
there?
day in my family. It's one of my kids' birthdays. So I remembered that one. 15th of November during the day, I don't have a time yet, will be the hearing for this, and it'll be presented, and the public will have another opportunity to weigh in at that time. The town manager takes the input from staff, from the public, and then renders a decision within 30 days.
I think the town council's just informed they're not part of the process.
They're not part of the process, but I do think they are informed,
They are
certainly. Yeah.
It's, I think, mainly down to Mark, isn't it, really? Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everybody. So, let's see, where are we? New business, I'm sorry, the beach reconfiguration project. Nita's going to give it.
Yes, I'm gonna,
Update.
I'm gonna open another folder here, so I am gonna give an update. First, I'm gonna go the matrix last. With regard to exciting bullet points. The town received a grant from CZM for this project. CZM is, and this is a tip of the hat that CZM is invested in this project, and is certainly a pot of money we're going to go after again for the next phase of this project. But what we received from CZM was, Donna, can I get your glasses? You're the best. $128,127.
Dang.
Yes, and it's for fiscal year 23, which we're in, and this is the scope I have in front of me, and this is what they're funding, in part. They're funding additional engineered plans for their 3 alternatives that were selected, that the board selected. They're funding regulatory review, which has been on the calendar for the end of October. We'll be meeting with the regulatory folks. They funded the public outreach. And then from there, they funded engineered plans for the final winner of the selected alternative. And they funded the permitting of that final plan.
Wow.
It's an extremely tight timeline. I've worked under this grant a number of times over the years. It's a great grant, but you have to just the
Gotta do it.
pedal is down. It was already down. You guys probably felt that already about this project, but this even puts the pedal further down on the floor. So we're very excited about that. So,
When did you apply for this? How did it come up so quick?
it comes up super quick. It's like, you gotta put that thing in there. So Leslie, we had an old one, actually, that we had applied for before, and so Leslie put it together and sent it in, and it was awarded very recently. Yep. Went before town council and was approved to be accepted. So all of that is very good. So carrying on with the bullet points. So where we're at right now is that this board has selected 3 alternatives, which was alternative 2, 6, and 7. Yes. And that has gone to the town manager, and he has he's been briefed. This board selected those 3 alternatives, as did the working group, which Tom and I are on. The town manager was briefed by the DPW. He's given us the nod to carry on. So the next phase is to take those 3 designs, flush them out a little further, do some storyboards, which apparently is some way of presenting them on how they're going to visually look, which includes 3D renderings, which will be really helpful for the neighborhood and the folks that are up there. How's this going to look? How's this going to change? And then we are going to move with that material to the public outreach. And so the tentative dates, and I'm going to confirm these with you once we've got them really locked in, but the tentative dates are a virtual public outreach meeting on November 16th at 6 p.m. Again, I'll email this to you. And then we're trying very hard to have our in-person on November 21st at 7 p.m. location TBA. As everybody knows, this is kind of messing everything, like making it hard for everything. And the 21st, something else is actually, that'll be free, but somebody's in there. I misspoke. That
You
was,
talking about the election?
yeah, election should be
It'll
done by the 21st.
Be
but,
over, yeah.
that we were bumping up against that with the earlier date, so forgive me for that. But November 21st, I'm still looking for a room, but we're really hoping to be able to do the in-person on that day in the evening.
How many people would you anticipate? How large a space do you need?
So the last time we did it, we had like 6 people.
Oh,
I mean, this is the thing, and I totally agree that we should keep with the outreach, but sometimes you can just yell it and yell and yell it and nobody comes.
Yeah, there was hardly anybody.
Which I find with beach
And then,
cleanups,
and then when
unfortunately.
you do it.
And then when you go to do it,
like,
everybody's like, how dare you
Yeah,
talk about that?
you didn't tell me.
Well, there's a plan, as a part of the project plan, there is a communication plan that we've discussed, which is going to attempt to make that a better response by communicating with all the various constituency groups like the MPBA and, you know, neighborhoods and other stakeholders, Cottage Colony. so
Civic
that they're
Association.
communicated with,
Excellent, yeah.
you know, more fully than maybe last time. Yeah, Pete?
Maybe as long as 7 or 6 or 8 years ago, there was the initial rollout of these alternative plans. And it was held, 6, and it was held at the senior center.
Yep.
And that was well attended.
yeah, it was. It was standing room.
Yeah, I think about 3/4 of the people there were town employees and people on the project and stuff. I was there. I mean, there weren't a lot of public there. If you looked around the room, it was a lot of,
We were at a different meeting.
yeah.
There was like,
The meeting I went to, was not, there were just a handful of people there, mostly.
there was no
It
standing.
was pretty full.
Are you talking about the shellfish one?
You're talking about something different. I
We're
think, 'cause-
talking about the alternative
Yeah,
plan.
the first rollout, the
Yeah.
first public
Yeah.
rollout of it.
Well,
All right, we'll have to agree to disagree on that.
yeah.
'Cause
I went to some
You don't need a
meetings.
big
you were there, and Jim Crocker was there, and Flores, and that was about it.
Yeah, I was there.
Well,
I-
I'm glad I attended.
Standing next staff.
No
was-
recollection whatsoever.
I think probably, yeah.
You would know.
I went to some meeting at the senior center, but it was about shellfish. and
Yeah,
it
no,
was
go ahead.
packed.
It's
And
okay.
that was packed, that one, shellfish.
Whatever, it doesn't matter who was there because this is a fresh start here, so,
We're going to have the ability to have room for all.
yeah. Well, Zoom is easy in that respect.
I hate
Ma-
Zoom.
Can I get clarification again?
Thank you.
The November 16th, what day of the week is that?
Wednesday.
And at what time is that virtual?
6 p.m.
6.
That one's looking good. The other one I still have to work on. All right, so the plan is that the town manager will be briefing the town council as we move forward. You know, this is going to be evolution of this project, and so he'll be bringing that forward during his, what does he call them?
Manager report. to-
Communication
to town
report.
council.
So just to be clear, then these meetings, the virtual and the in-person meetings will occur before town council has voted on it? Is that sequence of events?
Yeah.
So we're at the 3 alternatives,
Yeah,
and that's what's going to go before the first
Okay.
iteration of the public outreach. And then from that feedback there'll be a alternative selected,
Yeah, that's when you go
and
before
that's,
the town council.
yeah, we're not bringing them all 3. We want to bring them one and be like, this has been fully vetted. We started with 7, and this, you know, got the public outreach and got it down to 1, and that's when we get deeper into the finance. Like, then we get engineered plans where it's not just the back of a napkin numbers.
yeah, okay.
That's what you have right now. It starts to hone in on the numbers, and then that's the project that will ultimately need to go before town council for funding. That's that's when the vote happens.
Public meeting, another public meeting.
It is, yeah.
There may have to be a working meeting or a working group. I'm not sure, that, all of that is in the future. So I can't really explain each step to you because we haven't gotten that far yet, but I do know that this is the kind of the next month and a half is what I'm telling you.
Yeah, the big chunks are Mark, getting Mark on board with a final choice. Bring one choice to the town council. So the package has to be prepared to be a good communication package at the point in time we go to the town council. So that'll be up to the consultants to pull, the working team to pull that together and make sure it's good enough to sell. And then, of course, that project still is competing amongst all the other projects in the town for capital, so it's,
Yeah,
Well,
it's still
it's definitely.
while down the road.
so the better job we do with the presentation, clarification of the project to Mark and to the town council, the better.
You wanna, that one that Pete has in
Yeah,
front
the
of
town
him?
council might not buy into it either, you never know. It's been known to be contraire, not since I left.
Is this one still valid?
Much better behaved since I've been.
So, Pete, if you'll hold up that one, that everybody should rip up. The big one.
Oh.
What I'm gonna do is,
One gets ripped up.
that one, right? There's been some minor changes, thank you, Pete.
Just don't leave it behind.
So really, the matrix.
We'll have to kill you now.
Yeah. The matrix is there's like a 42-page technical paper that I've read and you have read. And really, it just comes down to the matrix, people. Like, I have the paper on me, so we can go in deeper if we need to. But some of the changes that's happened since Leslie presented this matrix to you and provided you the copy that you had, there's been a few changes I just briefly want to go over. First of all, the biggest changes on alternative 2, which to remind you is the hard structure, okay? I really wanted that to include the moving of the access trail and the gatehouse, because I really felt like we were doing apples and oranges here. So she added that into that line, and by doing so, made some changes to some of the scores. So if you look at Pete's, now that's ripped in half. Some of these were red here, and you can see they're not red anymore.
Yeah.
Because it met some of the qualifications of the project, such as improves emergency access, improves gatehouse operations,
Yeah.
reduces gatehouse vulnerability. So those scores went up because we included the gatehouse and the access trail to alternative 2. And I felt it was important because it was one that was selected.
Yeah.
In addition, I asked that she wrap into the cost the lower lot. Has anybody seen the lower lot during a rainstorm? So I was like, we don't have 50 years of lower lot here. So if we're keeping the lower lot where it is, it's going
We
to
gotta
need to
do
be
something anyway.
repaved, and we're going to have to deal with stormwater.
I still remember chasing ducks
Oh, there's ducks in there.
in the lower parking lot where they were actually diving.
To get
There was enough depth that they could dive. It was ducks or gannets, I forget.
Oh, yeah, gannet on the side,
Yeah.
and ducks right in there.
And we were chasing these things, trying to catch them after a storm. And they're diving into the, it wasn't like this deep. It was this deep. Pretty amazing.
So I asked Leslie to add that, which was, quite a bit of money as well. So what that did was it changed the initial cost of the alternative 2 is now 4.2 million, because it added those things.
It's higher, obviously.
It's considerably higher. Does that make sense to everybody?
That's
Okay.
good. That's good.
The other difference is that I asked her to relook at the number of parking spots we have, because the dunes swallowed up a bunch.
Yeah, it's a big
So
difference.
she lowered that number, because I was because, I mean, even the last 6 years, we have less parking in the lower lot. So that kind of changed that equation a little bit as well. So it changed the total ratings. It actually changed alternative 2. It lowered it. The bottom number is a little worse because it's so much more expensive. But then in exchange, it's also more, meets more of our requirements for ultimately the whole plan of the property. So I wanted to provide that to you because the one you have is stale. Is there any questions
So
about that?
there's some pluses and minuses to alternative 2, as there were before, but now there's more of both.
Well, I think
There's
it's
lots of pluses
Yeah.
with
It's
respect
added
to
some pluses.
environmental benefits.
Yeah.
for
Not
2.
for 2, for essentially all these greens down here.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's,
I think if you look at this, basically they're all the same cost.
Right. They're all-
And if you then take cost off the table as an issue,
Which
a
you've
decision factor, which this isn't really in my mind about cost because they're all the same cost, then you get down to the permittability, to the effectiveness, to the things that are
yeah.
less tangible in terms of, that really would drive a decision. And it's hard to see anything other than option 6 is really a, but I think the work is important because if you're going to do a project, any kind, people will test the robustness of your thinking and your project based on your, you're a scientist, you just don't try one thing, you try a lot of things, and you go down a funnel and you evaluate different options, and that creates a level of robustness in terms of your analysis, so that when you get that final answer, people look at it and go, hey, they looked at everything. They looked at all the alternatives, even some that are arguably not doable legally. They really considered everything. So that's why it's important, I think.
It's a political decision. Those two things are political, not legal.
Well, they're political in the sense that there are people who believe these things can be done irrespective of the law or the regulatory environment.
It can be done in other jurisdictions,
Yeah.
is what I've said
I
all
think
along.
it's other states.
Yeah, other
Other
states, yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So just to clarify, the
jurisdictions.
wildlife habitat was improved because
Yes.
we would move the access trail. And I do want to point out, the costs are kind of equal, and this is the number, I'm taking about 4 million when I do my back end the napkin stuff. But the maintenance cost is considerably higher for the
two.
hard structure because you
Yeah.
have to put so much sand on top of it. So I just want to point that out. All right, that's all I have.
Any further discussion? There's nothing we need to vote on here, it's just information. Any discussion from the board on this before we move on? I think the project's moving ahead well. They are under time pressure. I think the project team, Leslie and her team, are doing a good job. The information, I went through the technical bullet document they wrote. It was really thorough.
Congratulations on getting the grant.
Yeah, got the grant, so things are moving. Any other comments from the board on that? Okay, we'll move on to new business. Nina, you want to talk about you've got regulation changes on here. That's just a November standing item, I think, but is there anything we need to think about for next month?
Oh, for next month, I'm like.
Yeah, not
what
for
did I do
today, no.
November? We generally do regulations every other year. It's a pretty heavy lift, actually, staff-wise. So we took a really big pass at them last year. I don't have anything, staff has not indicated anything that's worthy of cracking that open again. So it's unlikely we're going to make propose any changes to the regulations. Next month is November, so we will be doing the annual staff report.
Okay, so. And then December, there's nothing really particularly on the agenda. January is the safety report, right? Yep. Okay. Any comments on the regulations before we move on? Anybody have any view that there should be something on the agenda regarding regulations before we move on? No? Okay, public comment. It's always a good, I think it's a good thing when you don't get any comment. Okay, I'll ask for someone to make a motion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. See you.